Hi there. One question I get asked a lot about alcohol is how do you know when you have a problem? And I thought it'd be helpful to share a couple of really pragmatic approaches that I recommend people can take because you can tie yourself in knots trying to work out whether you are an alcoholic or not. If you believe in that term, doctors don't use that term anymore, but I think a lot of people have an image in their head about a problem drinker, which is somebody that is, hit rock bottom. They're putting vodka on their cornflakes, or they're sitting drinking something strong from a brown paper bag, and maybe they've lost their job or they've lost their family, they've lost their home, and they're in a pretty bad way, right? And it's very easy to be able to look at somebody like that, look at that situation and feel desperately sorry for that person, but to heave a sigh of relief and say, well, that's not me. And it's like, I'm not an alcoholic because, and I work with a lot of people that are very high functioning, and I want to explain what I mean by that and why when you're high functioning, it can be harder to determine if there's a problem and why this pragmatic approach works really well. So when I describe high functioning, I'm talking about people who outwardly look like they've got it all sussed, right? So this is you if you are doing well in your career or your business, life in general, if you look after your fitness, if your career, your business is going well, if you've got a lot of successes in your life, and if you're the type of person that other people look at and think, right, they've got it nailed, they're quite reliable, they're dependable, they're very successful. And outwardly it looks like everything's great, but inwardly you have a reliance on alcohol, and you would describe it as the one area in your life that you're not in control of. You'd probably say you're in control of everything apart from alcohol. Now, the reason why this is a bigger problem is because if somebody hits a rock bottom, or if somebody goes in some kind of all-out bender and they drink a huge amount, or they're doing that on a regular basis, the chances are it's going to get detected by other people in their life. So it will become quite obvious that there's a problem, which will mean that people will try to help, right? But when you're a high achiever, you're probably pretty good at hiding it from other people. Even if you don't feel great in the morning, you still push yourself through. You still get all the things done that you're supposed to get done. In work, you've probably got quite a senior job and you deliver in all your targets. And you might even be the type of person that goes to a work event and nurses a glass of wine. So people wouldn't ever imagine that you had a problem with alcohol because you probably drink very little, if at all, at a night out. And if you do drink, it's probably very carefully managed, but then you'll go home at night and you'll have a bottle of wine. So the reason why it's a problem is because it goes undetected, and because outwardly it can look like you're fine until something goes badly wrong. And when I'm talking about something going badly wrong, it could be quite catastrophic, right? It could be a really scary health diagnosis that you get. It could be just completely breaking down. Something could go really badly wrong at work. You could get stopped the next day for driving and it might not be your fault. You could be behind an accident, or you could be randomly chosen to get a breath test and you discover that you're actually over the limit. Because you're so high functioning, you pride yourself on pushing through it. So things like that are more likely to happen. It's more likely to be something quite remarkable when something goes wrong. So most people don't want to wait until that happens. At the same time, most people don't want to label themselves as an alcoholic and to beat themselves up and to go to meetings in a church basement for the rest of their life where they're taught that they have to fight the desire to drink, right? That doesn't really seem like a great solution for anyone. And if that works for people, that's fabulous, but it is certainly not for everyone. So here's what I recommend instead. Instead of looking at all the ways why you are in control and trying to justify how much you drink, I recommend that you ask yourself a couple of fairly simple questions, right? The first question to ask yourself is, are you in control of alcohol? And here's what I mean by that. Are you deciding how much you're drinking each night in advance, and are you sticking to it? Are you able to take time off alcohol? Or are you finding yourself that once a bottle's opened, the bottle goes? Because if that happens, you're not in control. So you could point to all the people that drink more than you. You're a smart person. You could come up with loads of reasons why you could say that it's not a problem for you. But if you're not in control, you're drinking more than you want to. And if you're a high functioning person, you know exactly what it means to be in control of other areas of your life. And so if you are realizing that you're drinking more than you want, then I would say that you're not in control. And instead of saying, is it bad enough that, I have to do something about it? Is it so bad that I have to do something about it? Have I hit rock bottom, or can I get away with it for a bit longer? There's a lot of people that I speak to and they'll say things like, I never touch wine before 6 o'clock, or I only drink good quality red wine. I never touch spirits, and I would never drink during the day. And they've got a whole list of things that they don't do, but ultimately they're still having a bottle of wine, or sometimes more, most nights or every night. And so it doesn't really matter that you don't drink till 6. If you're having a bottle, that isn't normal, right? That isn't a level that you could justify in any rational way. So what I would say is ask yourself the question, are you in control? And if you're not in control, I would recommend that you don't wait until you've hit rock bottom, because if you wait until you've hit rock bottom, you'll probably lose a lot. You'll probably find it a lot harder, and your life could change in ways that could be quite dramatic and quite devastating. I would recommend that you look for an approach where you make sure that you get to the root cause of why you're drinking. Because when you tackle the root cause, you can shift your mindset so that you don't need to drink. And if you don't need to drink, that's where the magic happens, right? Because if you don't need to drink, that means you can drink or not drink, but you're not bothered about it, right? And to me, that is real freedom. It's not about, oh, I drank and I was within the healthy limit or whatever. Real freedom is, it has no hold over me whatsoever. It doesn't mess with my head. I don't need to spend any time counting units. I don't need to make a decision. I don't need to fight a desire. Why? Because I'm not bothered. And if I'm not bothered, then I'm not going to have it. So ask yourself that question, and I'd love to hear what you say. Thanks.